Now we're on the top of Kuf Aleph Amid Beis, and our Meimer is going to explain this din that we need that the Bezdin to be Menukim Mikal Mum, and it's derived Shenemar because it says in Sheashir Kulach Yafa Rayasi Mum Ein Bach. This pasuk is referring to Sanhedrin Rayasi. The members, the Dayanim of Sanhedrin, are called Rayasi Mitoch Chiba. V'imkein, from the fact that we need to be Mamayit Sumin from Dayani Chalitza, from the pasuk Liene, we must assume that we don't require a Bezdin of Dayani Sanhedrin because that would exclude all Bali Mum, including Sumin. Why would we need an extra pasuk Liene? V'idach. What about the Tanakama who derives that we can be Machshir Dayani et Yotos Bechalitza Miteva Zikne? What does he do with the word Liene Ahu Liene Mai Ovidle? What does he derive from Liene? And the word answers Ahu Liene Likidaravu Diasa Diamarava Tzrichi Dayone Lemichse Ruka. We require that the Dayanim see the spit, the Hanafka Mipume the Hanafka Mipume the Yevama, when she spits and it goes out of her mouth till it reaches the Avir Shekineged Hayavam, and they have to see that the Siv and Niksha Yevimto I lovely Eneas Kenim V'Yarka. So we darshan that it doesn't say V'Niksha Yevimto Li Eneas Kenim Ela V'Chol Tzanalo V'Yarka, but it says Li Eneas Kenim V'Chol Tzanalo V'Yarka. So there's no mafsik between the word Li'ene and the word V'Yarka to teach us that they have to see the Eureka. So Gemara asks for Idach Nami Rabbi Yehuda, who derives from the extra word Li'ene to exclude Sumin, is Miboile L'Kidarova. How does he know the derivation, the halacha, that we can be Machshir at Yotos? Our answer is Einochinami, Li'ene, we need for Rav. So I had then to exclude Hedyotos, to include Hedyotos. Viela Hedyotos, Ksherim L'Dayona Chalitza Vinola, how does he know this? And the Gemara says, Nafka, he derives from the pasuk, also Yevimta Ashara Lazkenim V'Omra Me'ein Yevami Lahakim Liachiv Shem B'Yisrael. And they darshan Man Yavme Lahakim Liachiv Shem. The Yevama says B'Yisrael, which means a Bezdin Shel Yisrael called even Hedyotos. V'idach, Tanakama who derived Hedyotos from the pasuk Ziknei, Hi Yisrael, my Ovid, what does he do with the pasuk Yisrael? Miboile Lichinitani, Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Yisrael, the Bezdin shall Yisrael, below the Bezdin shall Gerim. So if his father and his mother of the dying was a ger, then he's excluded because that's not called Yisrael. So Hedyotos are Ksherim, but Gerim and their children are not. The Idach of Yehuda derives from Yisrael to be Machshir Dayoni Hedyotos for Chalitza. How does he know that Chalitza requires a Bezdin Shal Yisrael? He already used up the word Yisrael for Dayoni Hedyotos. And the Gemara says, Yisrael Achrina Ksiv. Another time it says, Mi Yisrael. In the Pasuk, afterwards it says, V'nikra Shmo B'Yisrael Beis Chalutza Now. The Idach and the Rabbanim, what do they derive from the extra Yisrael? Miboile L'Chedasanya, they derive from the Braisa, Om Rabbi Yehuda Pamacha Sayidi, Hayinu Shoshim L'Fnei Rabbi Tarfon, Uba Yevama Lachlots, the Omar Lonu. Rabbi Tarfon told us, Anu Kulchem Chalutza Now. And from the pasuk that says V'nikra Shmo B'Yisrael, Sheikar Shmo Al Shema Yisrael, that means the Kahal who were there present at the time of the Chalitza, they should declare Chalutza Now. It's not enough that Dayanim say it, but we need that the Kahal should respond. Gemara asks me, Idach Rabbi Yehuda, who derives from V'nikra Shmo B'Yisrael, that we need a Bezdin Shel Yisrael and not a Bezdin Shel Gerim. How does he derive the conclusion that Ha'omdim B'Chalitza have to respond Chalutza Now? And the Gemara answers me, V'nikra Nafka. It says V'nikra Shmo, and this teaches us that Shenichtav V'nikra Shmo Samach Li Yisrael. And it comes to teach us that Havinikra Shmo Yehei Al Yidei Yisrael Dahainu Kol Omdim Bechalitza. Gemara Yisrael Meyato, if you darshan the word zikne in the pasuk v'karlo zikne iro v'dibru elav, and we don't say that zikno is not coming from Midrasha, but it's rather talking about this Canaan that I mentioned earlier in the Parsha, also Yevim to Asharel as Canaan. So we should darshan also v'karo v'dibru in the pasuk that v'karo shnayim and v'dibru shnayim. Achinami, should we darshan like that? The Rabbi Yehuda, who says that chalitza is 5, then we have to jack it up or Ekan Tisha. The Rabbanan who say the chalitza is 3, you have to jack it up to 7. Because for Karu Shnayim and Vidibru Shnayim. So my answer is no. Who that pasuk the Karu Vidibru mi boile l'chesanya, we need it for a different halacha that we derive in a price of a Karu lo zikne iro Vidibru elav the Amad v'Yomel Chavatzi l'Kachta the Karu lo Haim, that the Malamed, that this is meant to be Malamed, that the Dayani Bezdin themselves should call out in front of the Yavam, as we'll see a little bit later on, the Eitzah that we'll get later on. V'lo shlucham. The karu lo, v'lo yishkiru shlucham ima Eitzah shel v'dibru elav. And what is v'dibru elav? What is that Eitzah? Melamed demasiyan lo Eitzah hogenes lo. Shim ha'yuhu yeled v'hi zkena. Or the opposite, who zaken v'hi yalda. Omrim lo, the Bezin will tell him, Malacha eitzel yalda, Malacha eitzel's kena kach eitzel isha shekamoscha. The altachnis total toch beischa. If there's going to be a wide gap in the age, that's going to cause a dysfunctioning marriage, cause a lot of friction in the marriage. Omer Rav Nachman chalacha chalitza b'shlosha. We pass like the Tanakama. Hol v'sosam lantana kavaseu. Since the Tana is a stam mishnah like the sheet of Tanakama, namely that chalitza, all you need is shlosha. That's how we're going to pass. Omer le Rav Nachman ihachi. If it's true that you're going to pass like a stam mishnah, is then miyun nami. You should also pass in that miyun b'fnei shlosha, because the stam mishnah that holds that miyun b'shlosha d'snan, a mishnah at the beginning of Sanhedrin, and miyun v'chalitza b'shlosha. The tema achinami, maybe miyun regards shlosha. Atanya, we learned to the brayso miyun beishamay omrim bebezdin mumchen. We're worried about the fact that bezdin might make a mistake and be matir the ketana shisiyu avia. And there she needs a get. So to make sure that it's not this katana, but that katana, we need a bezdin shel mumchen, a beisil omrim bebezdin v'shalo bebezdin, mumchen and not mumchen. It matters not, because lo choshishim, we're not afraid. She yitu lahachshik katana she si avua. Elu v'elu modim shetzarch shlosha. Both Beisil Beit Shammai agree. They can see that you need 3 dayanim. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi, Machshir b'shnayim. All they need are 2 dayanim. They're not afraid that we'll need a shlishi. The Omar Rabbi Yossi, Parmin Yomi, Omar Rabbi Nachman, Alocha ki osa hazu. That all we need for miyun is 2, and therefore we prove Rav Nachman himself that he didn't pass l'gabi miyun kistam mishnah. And where it says hasam chad stomach, v'hacha trei stomach. In the case of miyun, there's only 1 stomach, 1 mishnah, and that's it. But with regard to chalitz trei stomach, we have 2 stam mishnayos, a mishnah here and a mishnah in Sanhedrin. So therefore, with regard to miyun, we should require shlosha. So Gemara says, Hasam, with regard to miyun, nami trei stami ninu. We have two mishnayos that say that miyun requires shlosha. And not like Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar, who require no more than shnayim. Disnan, we have a Mishnah here on Daf Chaf Heyom and Beis. Ktana shemeina bebaila ushacholza b'fanav. Cholza is referring to Yevamot Gedola, and b'fanav means Neach Chacham. Isana, the Chacham is allowed to marry. Now the din is that a woman who takes a neder that she won't have any hana from her husband, and therefore her husband has to divorce her. Now she goes to a chacham who's a mumcha, who's allowed to be matir nidar b'yachid, a yachid mumcha, and he's going to find a pesach of charata and be matir the neder. He should not marry this woman because his psak, his heter, is going to cause. No, I'm saying if he doesn't find the charot and he's not matir it, and then the husband divorces her, he shouldn't marry her because people will think that he was not able to be poseach b'pesach shel charot l'neder, and the reason for that is because he was hoping actually that the baal would be megarish her and then he would marry her. But that's a special din in gerushin. In miyun and chalitza, a chacham is allowed to marry her, and we're not choshesh that he gave her deliberately an eitzah for chalitza, or he taught the katana to be mamayin in order to marry him, because it's not one single chacham, like in the case of a yachid mumche nataris nedarim, but rather in chalitza and miyun, we need a bezdin. And a bezdin is a minimum of 3. And since this dayan is not a yachid, we're not afraid that he's going to accomplish a heter in order to marry her when we need 3 dayanim. And we're not going to be choshev 3 dayanim. So now in the case of miyun, we should require 3 anoshim for miyun. So we have 2 mishnayos that are sosmos that miyun requires 3 anoshim. And yet, Rav Nachum paskin that 2 are enough. So you see that you're not paskin like a stam mishnah. So why do you paskin like our mishnah, stam mishnah, that chalitza b'shlosha? The Gemara answers, Ella, even if there's 2 stam mishnayos, they don't necessarily paskin halacha like a mishnah, like a stam mishnah. Awesome. In the case of miyun, trei stami, there are 2 stam mishnayos that require only 2 for miyun. Hacha, with regard to chalitza, tlosa stami. We have no less than 3 stam mishnayos, because in addition to our mishnah, there's a mishnah in the second parak that talks about chalitza, and therefore Nachum Paskins that chalitza requires 3 dayanim, like the stima of 3 different mishnayos. So Gemara asks Michti, hastam of a hastam. Both in the cases of chalitza and in the case of miyun, you have a stam mishnah requiring shlosha. And therefore, mali chad stam, mali trei stam, mali tlosa. Why do you just count up stam mishnayos? And you come to number 3, and therefore you're paskin, we got to paskin that chalitza needs 3. But we only have 1 stam mishnah with regard to miyun that tells you that you need 3. And the Gemara answers, El Omer Rav Nachbar Yitzchak, that if there's a stam mishnah, we don't necessarily paskin like that stam mishnah. Here we paskin that chalitzas b'shlosha hoil v'stam b'mokom achlokes. There was stam mishnah that chalitza requires 3, and then we have machlokes where Rabbi Yehuda himself disagrees in that mishnah on a different subject. And on the din of chalitza, he doesn't disagree. So it seems like he was choser bo. He rescinded his original ruling and position that he mentioned in that same Mishnah. He doesn't disagree. It's not tvichus kenu. Al rosh par helim davar shel tzibur v'yegla ruf v'shlosh dayanim. Divrei Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'chamish hachalitza v'amiyin v'shlosha. And that's a stam Mishnah right after Rabbi Yehuda mentioned his opinion about Egla Rufa as a dissenting view. And here at this point he was quiet. And he said nothing. Lo kapolig Rabbi Yehuda. Ishmami, no, we derive from this at Hadar Bei Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda changed his original view, and Chalitza is Bishlosha Dayanim Shmami. Amar Rav Tzrichi Dayane Lemikva Duchta. We need the Dayanim to be Kovea Mokom for Chalitza. And that means Kvias LeChalitza is that the Rosh HaDayanim makes a declaration to the Dayane HaChalitza, O V'nelech L'Mokom Ploni L'Kvoa Mokom L'Chalitza. V'holchim Dayane HaChalitza also Mokom. V'yoshvim Sham. That's where they sit down and they Kovea Mokom L'Chalitza. And they say Neshev Lachlotz. And the day before, they already set it up and designated it for tomorrow as a makom for chalitza. How do we know this? The chsiv, it says in the parasha Kitei, we also yevim to ashara el hazkenim. So from the fact that it says hashara behei hayedia, it means it was a makom mizuman who was designated that before chalitza. Rav Papa Rav Huna Breid Rabbi Shavdi Uvda. They required 5 dayanim for chalitza. The Gemara says, "Keman Rabbi Yehuda v'Hadar Beit." And we proved before that Rabbi Yehuda rescinded his position requiring 5 dayanim for chalitza. And the Gemara answers, "Lefarsume milsa," not for the purpose of chalitza per se. Chalitza is fine b'shlosha, but we want to get out the word so that a Kohen would not marry this woman, that she already received chalitza, and to get out the word to Bnei Adam that they could marry her as she already received chalitza. And to publicize this, we need an extra 2 people for Pearson, totaling 5. Rav Ashi ikla lebei Rav Kahana Omer le. Rav Kahana said to Rav Ashi, slake mar legaban, come up to us. We're going to do a chalitza, and we need another dayan. Lemeluye bei chamisha. We have 4, we need 5. Come and join us. Amar Rav Kahana v'kayimna. I was standing, Kamei, the Rabbi Yehuda in front of Rabbi Yehuda. V'holchu Rabbi Yehuda beis dino l'sheves b'mokom ha'chalitza u'bekach l'kvo ha'mokom ha'chalitza v'yomer li. And Rabbi Yehuda said to me, Tos sak l'zirza dikni v'hela b'yachad itcha avila shel kanim. Take with you an entire package of kanim, of these poles made of wood, and come and be kovea mokum l'chalitza, and bring these kanim, and you'll be able to construct some sort of place where you could sit. And there are 3 dayanim. It's terufe bei chamisha, and we want to add to 5 dayanim for chalitza. Amulo. So they said to Rabbi Yehuda, Lamali chamisha. Why do we need 5 dayanim? Everybody agrees that 3 dayanim is sufficient. Amalahu ki heichi lefarsima milsa. We want to publicize the fact that she is a chalutza. Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Havi lekamei Rav Yehuda. He stood in the presence of Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda and his bezdin went to sit in a makom chalitza, kivoa makom for chalitza. Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda says, Sak ta lezirza dekni. Tikachitcha chavila shel kanim v'tavo itam lekvius makom hachalitza kidei l'starufe bei chamisha. And we'll make sure to add and jack up the number to 5 dayanim l'frusume milsa, to publicize the fact that she's a chalutza. Amalei, so Rabbi Shmuel bar Yehuda says to Rabbi Yehuda, Tanina, we have a brisa that teaches us, Matt, that the meaning of the word with Yisrael, when it says L'hakim li'achiv shem b'Yisrael, is bebezdin shel Yisrael v'lo bebezdin shel Gerim. V'ana and I Shmuel bar Yehuda ger. Ano, I'm a full-fledged ger, and therefore I'm possible. It's tarif l'dayonei achalitza. Amar Rav Yehuda, a person is believed kigon Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Someone who reaches that integrity, that high level of commitment to truth, like Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, he never would lie. Mafekna mamona apume. We can take money out of someone's possession based on his dibur. Kisha omer al odom shechayev lechaveru mamon motzia mimenu al pi diburo v'af below edin. So this is called hodas baldin. So Gemara asks, "Mafikna salked daitoch." Does it really mean that we can take money out of its possession through one witness? Val pishnayim edim omer achmana. The Torah requires 2 edim minimum. Ella, says the Gemara, marana shtara fume. Marim with an ayin hashtar al pi diburo. Shem Omer al Shtar Chov Shiadulo Shenifra Ein Govim Imashtar. Omar Rava, and here we turn to Kuf Beis. Ger Donis Chavero Dvar Torah. A ger, according to Torah law, could sit on a bezdin as a dayan, even in dinin nefashos. Shenemar Som Tosim Olecha Melech Asher Yivcha Hashem Olekecha Bo Mikerav Achecha Tosim Olecha Melech. A dayan is called a melech, and since the Torah writes that therefore a ger should be pasal ladu, and then we darshan alecha, meaning you're Yisrael, who de beinon mikerav achalach. Aval ger donis chavero ger. We don't need mikerav achecha if a convert is judging a fellow convert. The Torah didn't exclude dayanim gerim to be dan gerim. V'im hoisa imo mi Yisrael dan afilu Yisrael. They could dan afilu dini nefashos because he's included mikerav achecha. He's a full-fledged Jew. Le'inyan chalitza. We say that a ger is pasul. He has to have both a mother and a father who come from Klal Yisrael. Shenemar v'nikra shmo b'Yisrael, and we darshan she'ehei v'Yisrael gomor mikol tzadov. This is where we're going to stop here. Amar Rabbah on the top of Kuf Beis Amud Aleph.